Hi everyone. Today let's talk about Biden dropping out of the race and what that could mean for markets. Then we'll get into all the normal data and charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So markets could unwind the Trump trade based on Biden dropping out of the race. I'm not really sure I fully agree with that. I think Biden really posed a bigger threat to President Trump versus Kamala Harris. She just has a lot of cringy moments, to be honest. If you look on social media, especially on Twitter right now, there are tons of videos of her just saying the same things over and over, which is a little bit weird. She also has a tough record when it comes to her time as Attorney General, keeping people past their sentences, also fighting evidence being admitted into cases, even in the case of a death row inmate, which all is not great. I just don't see her as a threat or as likable as Biden, even though he clearly had some mental issues when it came to either Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, whatever the case may be. But anyway, talking about the stock market here, Trump win, good for stocks. So we could see a little bit of a pullback in markets, which is interesting considering the 3 down days that we saw at the end of last week. They mention green energy stocks were hit by Trump, so maybe they get a little bit of a lift from this instance. Remember, markets play on probabilities, so we'll see how it moves as we push into the end of this week. They keep mentioning the disastrous debate performance that President Biden had with Trump, and I'm honestly not that sure that Kamala Harris is going to be able to do that much better. Obviously, she should be much more able to stay on the right topic, to stay on topic and stay coherent, but I'm just not sure her ideas are going to be as desirable as this article is portraying, but it'll be interesting to see for sure. They also mention here that the US dollar could weaken a little bit if the Trump trades unwind, because Democrats typically spend more money, and that's going to weaken the dollar over time. They also mention here this is a whole new race, with Harris being the front runner. She could be a driver for women, young people, black voters. Again, I think that's a little bit of hearsay. I just don't see her as being that popular with some of those demographics, especially black voters with her record on crime. And just to finish up this article, they mention they do expect stocks to fall in the near term regardless, but noted that any dips should be met as a medium-term buying opportunity. And we've mentioned that before on the channel. We are expecting a slight retracement this week with lower lows to come, which should eventually be bought up over the medium term. Moving over to fear and greed, we finished at a 56 today, up from a 49, so pretty significant step higher there. Interesting to see that. Momentum back into extreme greed, fear and breadth continuing to hover up slightly, still in fear though. And then put call ratio, we're back into regular greed, still sitting around that 0.7 area, which is still quite depressed. It's nothing like we saw back here in September or October, where we were getting up towards that 1 range, so still plenty of bullishness in markets. VIX pulled back slightly, still in regular fear. And then safe haven demand, regular fear, extreme greed here on junk bond demand as this continues to go lower on junk bond yields. Moving over to seasonality, we were expecting a slight step higher today, which we did get. And then on those election years, we are supposed to see another down day tomorrow, and then the next day with a bottom there on Wednesday, and then a slight rally into the end of the week. I'm not sure it's going to play out quite that way, but a little bit of rally is what we were expecting, and that is what we got. Moving over to the earnings calendar, we did get Verizon, met on the bottom line, missed on the top, also lost just a few subscribers. Interesting there. And then looking at tomorrow, Alphabet, Tesla, Visa, Coke, Texas Instruments, GE, Philip Morris, Comcast, UPS, Lockheed Martin, Chubb. Probably only know them because Berkshire owns some of it, General Motors, and then to round it out, Invesco there for earnings tomorrow. Lots and lots of big names coming in. Need those to do well. Let's take a look at the Google charts today as well. And then looking at Wednesday, Qualcomm, Thermo Fisher, IBM, Services Now, Nextera Energy, AT&T, Waste Management, General Dynamics, Chipotle, CME Group. Love to trade those options, Ford Motor, and then that'll pretty much wrap it up for Wednesday. So lots and lots of big earnings this week. Definitely going to push markets around starting tomorrow. Moving over to the economic calendar, pretty much nothing here for today, just the Eurogroup meeting. And then tomorrow, existing home sales. Would like to see that tick up a little bit. Wednesday, pretty much nothing. Couple of economic factors, global U.S. manufacturing PMI, global services PMI. New home sales, fairly interesting, 5-year note auction. And then looking at Thursday, GDP numbers for Q2, core durable goods, core PCE prices. And then for Friday, you do do have core PCE as well, so inflation data this week. Nothing crazy, but a decent amount of economic data. Moving over to Max Pain, we are right on top of it. 554, stock price 554, call wall 565, so you're still expecting downward movement. Definitely not looking to get above that, so you kind of have an upside limit of around 2%. Some puts here at 550, nothing crazy. Honestly, gives you some room to the downside. Bottom of the calls is 549, so about a 1% down move. Total options about 1 million, nothing crazy there. A little bit high for an off week. And when I say off, I mean not third week options expiration. Put call ratio relatively low at 2.6. We've been seeing it in the 3s and 4s when markets were going higher. So to me, this gives you a little bit of downside potential, maybe 1.5%. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps here on the hourly, you can see we did get a gap higher, did get a rally, pulled back to the 21 EMA, held that level, rallied up. Pretty good trading in there, to be honest. I just didn't really trade it that well. Could have been better for sure. And then you can see on the daily chart, we're hitting that trend resistance. So we expected to hit the trend resistance. I didn't think it would happen on the first day. Maybe we'll get a little bit of grind up here, maybe hit the 9 EMA on the daily, which would be 557.59. Momentum didn't shift. I would expect at least one shift there. RSI not quite overbought yet. You can see we're swinging up a little bit after hours. So overall, short term, looking for a little bit more rally in tomorrow's session. Moving over to the Tasty trade charts here, you can see that down move, hit the ATR stop, bounced from there, hit the 8 EMA, which is at 555.10. So right there in that zone where we're going to see a little bit of rejection potentially. You also notice no volume on this move. So we got the big down move, volume ramping on the selling, no volume today. So to me, that says we're going to see a little bit of a failure here eventually. First ATR band is 557, so that's about $3 higher from here, and then above that you got 561.82. So again, right in that same zone, 1 to 2% of potential upside. I don't think we're going to hit that upper ATR band. I think we're going to see that lower high setup. It's not impossible. It could absolutely rally back up to that 566.61 level, but to me it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, you can see the bounce off of the 144 EMA. We talked about it. We thought we were going to get the bounce. We did. It was a little stronger than I would have guessed, but it was good. Momentum bullish. Again, no volume. Right in the middle of the range here. Got there fairly quickly. Now we'll see what happens. 21 EMA, 554.41, basically right where we finished. Then we'll see if we reject from here down to that lowest ATR, which is at 546.65. So right in that zone here. So we'll see how it plays. If we get a push, maybe we hit that next ATR band, ATR trailing stop, 559.22, or the lower band potentially down around that 546.65 area. And then moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis, big down move, gap higher, rally. The day itself was not very big of a swing, but the gap was strong from that 475 up to that 481 area. So pretty strong of a gap higher. Again, pulled back, hit the 21 EMA here on the hourly chart, pushed back up here. We did get above the level 481.94, held above that. Pretty much closed on top, and we did hold above that for the close, and you can see we're pushing back above it after hours. Then moving over to the Tasty charts here on the Qs, you can see we got that deeper cut. I thought we might touch that 55 EMA there at 471. Didn't quite get there, gapped higher and rallied. Middle of the range there, 486.99, so a little bit more upside there. And then the 21 EMA, 484.56. So not quite there yet either, just a little bit below it. Big rally on the day, $7, more than 1%, so stronger than I would have guessed, like I mentioned. Even got a little bit of volume on this candle, something we didn't see on the SPY. So again, interesting. NASDAQ looking a little bit better than I would have guessed. Still very much a downtrend here in the short term, and still looking for that lower high. Maybe we even get a gap fill all the way up to 496. That would be interesting. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, very similar thesis. Could push that ATR trailing stop. That is at 488.29, which would give you about another 2% higher from here. Hit that level, and then you get a resumption down to that lowest ATR band, which is currently at 468.54, which would give you quite a bit more downside. And as this rallies up to that level, this will continue to extend lower. Could be as low as 463 or so before we eventually get that bigger breakdown. Momentum bullish, decent volume here. So again, expecting a little bit more upside tomorrow, but eventually I do expect this to fail. You can see all the ATR bands are trending lower here on the 4-hour chart. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell popped 1.59%. Big move there, pushed throughout the session, slight gap higher and rallied, pushed through the level to 1879. Next level, 221.49, up a little bit more after hours. Big move there. Everything looks strong on the Russell. And then looking at the Dow, decent jump there, 0.3%. Doji up a little bit after hours. Doesn't look nearly as strong. I don't know if we're going to get to that trend resistance up around 410, but I do think that the NASDAQ is going to hit the 221.49, maybe even get all the way up to that 226 level again. I expected a higher low. I didn't really expect it to be this much of a higher low. I thought we'd cut a little bit deeper, maybe down to the 212 or this next trend line here, around 213, but looks like we're getting a resumption on that rally already. Moving over to stocks that moved here, I just wanted to bring up Coinbase again. I think this is a critical level here. So you've got a clear base of price action, hit this trend, held the higher low. We're pushing to this level here. If this breaks, I think there is a lot of potential, potentially $100 of upside move to that next level around 357. So something to keep in mind. Coinbase has done moves like this before, 119 to 200, which eventually ended up around 268. So you can see there, $140 of price action. I think we could see another $100 here on Coinbase if this level here breaks. Something to watch. And then CrowdStrike, we talked about this one. Obviously, they were the source of a lot of weakness after they basically shut down Windows, and they did fall another 13.5% after falling 11.5% or so. Huge volume, huge selling. We talked about this being an interesting area, gapped right through it and fell. Still very much a down move, falling knife. And my next support there is 244.82. I think eventually this is going to be viewed as a market opportunity to buy CrowdStrike, but obviously you want to be patient here. 244 is what I'm looking at. I think once we touch that level, maybe we'll start to see this slow down, which is still another $20 or so of downward price action. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple was down 0.16, Microsoft up 1.33%. So we held the trend line, held the 55 EMA. So we hit the areas we thought we were going to, gap through here, hit this zone. And now we see momentum swinging back to bullish. Interesting on the daily chart. Probably going to hit that 9 EMA up at 449. If Microsoft starts to gain a little bit more, that could be bullish for markets. And then you have Apple, 21 EMA is your support, 221, 222.18. Haven't touched that yet. VWAP coming up here. Momentum still bearish, RSI still a little bit bearish. So we'll see how this plays. Could hold this level. If it breaks down, the trend is sitting here at 218. But between the two, I think I'd pick Microsoft. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, both of these popped pretty strongly today, 5.15% and 4.76%. Tesla headed towards 255.44, maybe back up to that 264.68 level up here. We were looking at this as a high, lower high. Now we have a little bit of a double bottom here coming off of that Friday low. Momentum still bearish, RSI still a little bit bearish, so you could absolutely reject here and then continue lower down to that 232.57 level. But if 255 breaks, then we have about another $10 up to that 264.68 level. And then NVIDIA, I thought we were going to hit that 55 EMA today. Didn't quite follow through there at 144.34. Instead, we got a gap higher and rally. 125.17 is the level, momentum swinging to bullish. So getting a little bit of a reversal on conditions for a couple of these. Doesn't mean we can't establish that lower high, but it seems like short term we're getting a little bit of a bounce, which is what I looked at on the weekend session, but it is a little bit stronger than I would have guessed. Moving over to Meta and Alphabet, we got Meta jumping 2.23%, hit the level, 489.67. Momentum swinging to bullish, so it should have a little bit more legs here. Should break this level, 21 EMA sitting at 504. And then look at Google. We haven't looked at this one in a while. Let's go full screen on that. You can see pretty decent run, topped out around 192, 193. Looks like we're headed back to that 21 EMA at 185. Trend resistance 187.61. Momentum stepping towards bullish. RSI breaking up. Still going to hit that SMA, but it's got a lot of room here before it does that. So this looks pretty bullish. We'll see how it plays. With that kind of room, you might even get a double top up around the 190s. But right now, this does look bullish coming off of that 55 EMA. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Staples did go just slightly higher, 0.06. Wick down to that 9 EMA, held the level. So consolidation looks like we're still probably going to go higher here. And then looking at discretionaries, you can see got a gap higher and rally, broke the level 189.38. Again, we expected the bounce off the 21, expecting either a lower high or a double top. So we're still within the regular thesis. Momentum still bearish, could step higher, see how it plays. As long as you're above 189.39.38, we're still looking bullish up to that next level. Moving over to financials and oil and gas here, you can see oil and gas did continue lower. So I was a little bit concerned we might bounce off this level. We did go lower here. wicked all the way down to the 144 area. Now I'm watching this 200 sitting there at 149.72. I think we could bounce there. I still think we're going to hold a higher low. I still like this structure, but right now still being patient. And then financials caught a little bit of a bid, about 0.5%. Still think we're probably going lower. I added some trend lines here. We had the lower trend, just copied that here to the upper trend. Makes sense. We overthrew it, gave it all back. Now we're here. Could touch it one more time, but either way, still expecting this kind of chopping price action. Eventually we'll go higher from here, but it doesn't mean we can't pull all the way back down to the 41, 42 area before we get there. Moving over to oil and gold here, we got both of these continuing lower. We talked about oil looking very weak at the end of last week, and sure enough, it's continuing lower here. Monday session, 0.3, gap down and falling already here for the Tuesday session, probably going lower. We'll see how it plays. The low from this consolidation is around 77.50, so that would give you basically the same low as we got today. Needs to hold that level, otherwise we're probably headed down to 73. And then gold, talked about this being a potential for a higher low. Still possible. We hit VWAP, so we touched one of those first levels at 220.79. I think the 21 EMA is still in play there at 219.46. And you can see momentum still rolling to bearish. RSI still looking bearish. It doesn't mean we can't hold a higher low, maybe even the 55 down there at 217, but I don't think we're going to make it all the way back down to that 214.65 level. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon. RIOT positive 1.75, momentum bullish, RSI bullish, so still looks like we're headed towards that 14-18 area. And then look at Marathon, down 3.15, still holding the 9 EMA there. That's at 23.10. Need that zone to hold if it's going to, otherwise we're probably headed back to the 21, down at 21.35. Certainly could hold that, still expecting a higher low, very similar to setup to what we've seen across the rest of markets. Still think it's going to be a higher low, still think we're going to see a push. Question is all about timing. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth, we did get a little bit of a bounce. So 20-day breadth hit the level. We talked about it. 68.14, touched that level, ended up getting a bounce from there. Interesting. So maybe we see another swing back up here to 86.53. Then we get a double top or something. Maybe we get consolidation. Certainly possible. And then looking at 50-day, similar move. Just barely broke the level, 68.66. Technically, it's above it on a closing basis. Didn't fully engulf the candle, and that's true on both of them. So that's a little bit concerning. And then look at this RSI. Very clean. RSI trending higher, getting the bounce. So you should expect at least a lower, higher, double top on markets, even the ones that look a little bit bearish. So we'll see how it plays. Looks like this is going to go a little bit higher. Makes sense with the move we saw on the Russell. Moving over to the dollar here. We talked about the Trump trade and how the dollar should be stronger in a Trump environment, but we really haven't seen that. So we had the debate, Trump election probabilities went higher, the dollar has kind of pulled back to a lower low level from this previous low. We are seeing a bounce from there. We're looking for a little bit more rally, want to see it get above 104.4 if it's going to do it. But you can see here on the hourly, touch the level, broke all these trends, rejected from there. We're seeing more selling here into the end of the session. So we'll see how this plays, but right now looks short-term bearish, but momentum did swing back to bullish a little bit. RSI trending lower with the SMA there, so that's interesting. So either way, this looks like a low. Looks like we're probably going to hold a higher low and push, but it's just not doing it right away. Moving over to the 2-year and the 10-year yield. Yields have been rallying over the last couple days, and today was no exception. Momentum stepping to bullish there on the 10-year yield, which is interesting. Hit the trend line here, gapped through it to the Tuesday candle, which is already out here. So looking for a little bit more rally there. Let's go ahead and extend out that trend line. Makes sense. Could see a rally back up to the 4.3 area. 2-year still very depressed. Obviously not seeing the same kind of strength we're seeing on the 10-year, but it did rally a little bit. Let's actually see if we can find a midline there, see if that makes any difference. Pretty close to that midline here on this trend. Right there in the middle of the zone, still very much a downtrend. I still think both of these are going to head lower, but the 10-year finding more strength as we head back towards those normalized conditions. Moving over to JNK and TLT. JNK got a little bit of a bounce, so we got consolidation, hit the 9 EMA, pushing up, back above the short-term trend. 95.61 is the next level. And then TLT, big sell there, 0.29. Hit the trend here, needs to hold that if it's going to do it. Still above the 200, so the structure is changing. You can see this 200 has been trending down. Now we've kind of flattened up there, and if we look a little bit closer, you can see just a slight start to swing higher. I still like this. We're above it. We're holding the level, and this should still be bullish over the medium term. But we're seeing a little bit of consolidation here over the past month and a half or so. Moving over to volatility, move index continuing to trend higher as we see TLT falling, momentum swinging to bullish, RSI swinging to bullish. And then the VIX, big move down, 9.75, still holding level 14.7. So could hold a higher low and then swing, but right now it is downtrending. 21 EMA sitting at 13, so maybe we get a little bit more down move. We saw this ramping, we got the spike. Now we're going to see what happens. Is it going to be like this, where you get a spike, consolidation, ramp down, hold the level and spike again? Or is it going to be more like this, where you get the spike, consolidation, and then a more prolonged downtrend with a rally associated with it? So it's hard to say. Could see something like this. Perpetual spikes, higher volatility. This was the last earnings cycle, so it makes sense that we would see something like that. Either way, still some structure here. VIX still elevated, at least for the short term. Moving over to my accounts, I made just a little bit of money. Should have made way more. I didn't react as quickly as I could have to the Russell move, which was quite aggressive, and then the Qs didn't react well there at all. Put my shares back on, held the calls, rode those out, got a little bit more credit there. Still think we could see a little bit of a fall tomorrow, just depends. You can see price action here after hours down a little bit, 481.77, closed at 482.32, so down just a little bit after hours. Either way, slightly bullish in my positioning for both. Should have made more money. Can't complain about making a little bit though. Small deltas, might roll this up again here on the IWM. It looks quite strong. Qs, being cautious there because the overall structure is still a little bit bearish. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of the current presidential race, Kamala Harris getting in there, Joe Biden dropping out, and what does that mean for the economy and for markets. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.